back to my channel. Today we are talking about self-sabotage. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. If this is the first time you have seen me, welcome to my channel. My name is Dina. Today's video was inspired by one of my breakdowns, anxiety moments. I was having a bit of a moment and then I paused and I was able to kind of assess the situation, I guess. I used to just kind of break down and go into these panic moments of like stress and anxiety and just not have any control over it. I am actually so proud of myself because I've gotten to a point where whenever I get to one of these headspaces where I'm overthinking things, freaking out, stressing out, I am actually able to be like, hey Dina, let's take a moment, let's calm down. I'll actually just like close my eyes and I usually do like hand on heart, hand on belly, breathe, just like deep breaths. By the way, taking deep breaths in general will already it'll slow down your heart and it's actually really good for anxiety. So if you ever have those moments, taking the time to breathe is very important. And then I like to kind of psychoanalyze myself. Basically, I will take the moment to just think about, where's this thought coming from? Where are these limiting beliefs and ideas and stressors coming from? I usually can kind of diffuse the situation. I can usually come back to a peaceful place and get my anxiety under control. And I am so proud of myself that I'm able to do that. And I know everyone's anxiety have different levels and different severities and stuff like that. So I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but maybe give it a try. Basically, out of this situation, I started thinking a lot about, self-sabotage, because that's what I was doing in that moment. I was literally self-sabotaging and it comes up every now and then, and I've started to follow my patterns. I started to recognize my patterns of when the self-sabotage shows up. And it got me thinking, I'm like, this needs to be a video. And I started brainstorming all the different reasons for self-sabotage, whether they are, things that I've experienced or things that I've witnessed other people experience. And by no means this is necessarily an all-encompassing list of all the ways that self-sabotage shows up, because obviously everyone's different, everyone's unique. There's probably so many more, but I wanted to make a video about this. Now, yes, this is a bit of a more of a psychology topic, which if you guys know me, you know that my content on this channel is very much a combination of psychology and spiritual. I have the mental aspect and I have the spiritual witchcraft aspect of things. And I like to combine the two together because I find my spirituality and my mental health go hand in hand, and I find that every technique, everything that I could do for myself and make my life better and manifest better works better when I use the two together. Before I get into the reasons why you may be self-sabotaging, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that this video is not a replacement for therapy. It is not a replacement for any sort of mental health professional. I have a psychology background. I did get my 4-year degree in psychology, but I am not a practicing therapist or psychologist, but I'm just more passionate about it, and I do my own research and I do my own analysis kind of on myself, and I learn new things and I research from there. But that is what this is. So if you guys are in need of actual support, please seek it. I always advise people to seek the help that they need. Also, there might be parts of this video that are maybe triggering for you. If it is too much, then don't watch it. That's okay. But also, if you're able to, triggers can teach us a lot of things about ourselves. And whenever I get triggered by something, I actually just use that as an opportunity to learn more about myself, to grow, to become a stronger person. There's so much we can learn from our triggers. Without any further ado, I have 9 reasons here why you might be sabotaging yourself. And I think that these are also not just important to talk about for mental health in general, but also for manifesting. If you are sabotaging yourself in these ways, you are also inhibiting your manifestation. So if you want to start bringing in wealth, if you want to start bringing in opportunities and exciting things into your life, you have to change your mindset. One reason why you might be sabotaging yourself is that you are keeping yourself safe. Safe doesn't necessarily mean happy. Safe is comfortable. Safe is what we're used to. So many people do this. Basically, every human being has probably done this at one point in their life, where they stay in a situation that they are unhappy in longer than they should, just because they feel safe there. We get stuck in our routines. We get stuck in what's familiar to us. And a lot of times this also happens with relationships. People will stay in a relationship even if they are very unhappy in that relationship, even if the relationship is toxic, because still at the same time they feel safe to an extent because they are comfortable. They've been with that person for so long, so they can't imagine being with anybody else, because the idea of doing something different, the idea of doing something new that is so far from the norm for them is too scary that they rather just be uncomfortable. They rather be unhappy. And not everybody necessarily consciously acknowledges this. A lot of this is unconscious. So, I mean, if you have gotten to a point where you can consciously and mindfully say that you're doing that, you have a certain level of awareness already that a lot of people don't have. So number 2 is imposter syndrome. This is something a lot of us deal with. We don't think we are capable of doing something, or we're about to do something and then we're like, who do I think I am? I don't have the expertise, or I don't have the knowledge, or I don't have the ability to do that. We tend to put ourselves at a lower level. A lot of us, not everybody. Some people have big egos and they think they can just do everything. But a lot of us do see like other people as experts, but we have trouble seeing ourselves as an expert or in an expert role. I feel like everybody usually gets imposter syndrome at some point, especially if they're trying something new, like a new job or something. Like you get a new job and you're learning a lot of new things. So imposter syndrome usually sets in because, again, you're doing something that's fresh, that's new, and you're in that training period. So you feel like you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Some people will push through the imposter syndrome and they'll do the fake it till you make it kind of deal, you know? And that's usually what I do. I act confident. Even if I have that sliver of doubt, even if I'm feeling that imposter syndrome on the inside, I'll try to act as confident as I can, push myself through the discomfort, and usually eventually I will feel comfortable in that position, in that role. All right, so number 3, and this is being worried about what other people will think. This is definitely a form of self-sabotage that I see a lot. I mean, it depends on how much you care about what other people think of you. Some people just have a personality where they just don't give a crap. Like they just don't care what other people think about them. I think social media has definitely amplified this to the point where everyone feels like they have to show off on social media. They compare themselves to other people and they get in their head, when in reality, usually no one cares. Usually everyone is so wrapped up in their own life and their own stuff that they're not really paying attention to what you're doing. But this is something that does show up, and I feel like a lot of people probably don't do things because they're worried about what other people think. And I think this is also amplified depending on how close you are to the person. So for example, like maybe you have a strict family, maybe you come from a very strict upbringing. Your choices are very much influenced by your family. So for example, let's say you come from a family of like doctors and lawyers, and your family has very high standings, they're all very academic, but then you grow up as a very creative person and you want to play music and that is your dream. You want to make your own music, you want to go professional. Think about how difficult it would be to be the one musician out of a family of doctors and lawyers. So there could be a lot of pressure from family to conform and go with the career choice that most people in that family go with. Maybe they're supportive, but maybe unconsciously you feel like you're letting them down. Every family dynamic is different, but this is definitely a very common one. Number 4, you haven't trained your brain to do anything different. Our brains tend to fall into cycles. They have patterns. And the more you think a certain way, the more neural pathways your brain creates for that kind of thought. That's why your thoughts are so important, because it's actually creating neural pathways. Like every single day of your life, you are literally molding your brain a certain way. Depending on what you consume, how you think, what you believe, it literally physically changes your brain on a neurological level. So if you go about your entire life self-sabotaging, preventing yourself from going after the things you want, having limiting beliefs, thinking negatively, these neural pathways are getting deeper and deeper and stronger. So it's harder to then break out of those patterns, to break out of those cycles, because you've trained your brain a certain way. Now what do? You have to actively start to recognize when certain thought patterns come out, and it's difficult at first. Again, it takes a certain level of self-awareness, but once you start to recognize your thoughts, then you can start to change them. Then you can start to detour them a different way, be like, oh, you're going this way, no, we're gonna go this way this time. But again, it takes practice, it takes training, especially because if you've been thinking a certain way your entire life, it's gonna take a lot longer than a couple months to fix these thought patterns or, change them to a way that's gonna benefit you in your life a little bit more. Number 5, we don't believe we can find something better. This is one I see a lot, especially in toxic relationships. Unfortunately, I've witnessed a lot of friends fall into cycles and patterns of staying with somebody that was so toxic, so bad for them. I think a lot of it comes from self-confidence. I think a lot of it is self-esteem, self-worth based. And a lot of that does start in childhood with relationships with their parents, with just any sort of early relationships, whatever, attachment style is formed at that young age. I won't go into all the attachment styles, but like if you guys are interested in that, you guys can look into that more, because your attachment style are going to very much determine the kind of relationships that you have. And unfortunately, a lot of people also just don't believe that they can find something better. So they will stay in a relationship that's not good for them, or a job that's not good for them, because they think this is the best they can have. But it's something that they just have to come to on their own. They need to develop that self-awareness and decide for themselves that they want to make the change. So yeah, that's another one that's unfortunately seen a lot. Number 6, you have negative core beliefs. Now, core beliefs and mindsets, they run very deep, really deep. They're developed at a very early age, and unfortunately they're usually confirmed and affirmed over and over and over again in one's life. I think part of this is psychological. I think part of this is also energetic. Personally, I've seen this a lot. Particularly, there's one person that I see on my Facebook all the time, and it seems like there's always something bad that's happening to them. There's always something bad, some bad luck, something they're complaining about, and every single Facebook post is about this new bad thing that's happening in their life. It seems that people who have really, really negative things happen to them, not everybody, but a lot of them tend to constantly have bad things happen to them. It's like that's all they attract is bad luck. Now, I think part of this is a psychological phenomenon, and I'm gonna try my best to pronounce it as best as possible, but it's called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, or effect. And basically it's a phenomenon that the more you think about something, or the more aware of something that you are, the more you see it. So I think to some degree it's kind of like that. Like if you expect bad things to happen to you, you're gonna see more of the negativity in life, you're gonna see more of the negative events. Whereas someone who has a more positive outlook, positive core beliefs in life may see negative events and stuff as just obstacles that they overcome, but they're very positive and motivated to get over that. And then they usually are directed towards more positive events. But unfortunately, not everyone's like that. A lot of people have a very sinister view on life, and they think that all the bad things happen to me, my life's never good, my life is so hard. But if you go about life with that mindset, then that's what you're gonna see most. That's what you're gonna experience most. The energy that you put out into the universe is what you're going to receive in return. And I am a strong believer of this because I see it literally all the time. And I don't want this to get confused with like toxic positivity, because I think that's a problem too. I think you should be able to feel your emotions, but there's a difference between feeling your emotions and being stuck in your emotions. Number 7, you let the outside world take your power. This can manifest in so many different ways, but I think a lot of people have given their power to the world. And I think for a big portion of the world takes their power in a way that is more psychological than physical. Our opinions, our thoughts, our ideas often get molded much more than we'd like by the media, by advertisements, by our economy, by our social values, our social institutions, all of that. And In many cases, people have given up on their dreams, people have given up on themselves, people have started self-sabotaging because the world taught them a certain belief, or that they have to live their life a certain way. I think that's a question that we all have to ask ourselves at some point is, where have I given my power up to the world? I think it's important to reevaluate your mindsets and your beliefs and get to the bottom of where they come from. How many of these beliefs are your own, and how many of these beliefs are that of society? Number 8 is you have lost touch of you, or you haven't quite found you yet. And sometimes you can get into self-sabotaging behaviors because you don't have a very solid understanding of the person you are. And I think this happens a lot, mostly in like early adolescence, like when you're a teenager and you're kind of starting to figure yourself out. But I think this can happen at any point in life though. There's a lot of people that won't go after certain opportunities and will just kind of stay in a stagnant routine that's not necessarily making them happy because they still don't have a good idea of who they are. They still don't have a good idea of what they're good at. They still don't have a good idea of what interests them, what gets them excited, what they're passionate about. And a lot of the time, this is because they haven't had enough time by themselves. They haven't had a lot of reflection time. This can happen for so many different reasons. Sometimes we just go through the motions of life. We got caught up in our work. We get busy. Maybe you are a parent at a very young age. You have children. You're so focused on your kids that you don't have the chance to self-explore. There's so many different reasons why this can happen, but sometimes self-sabotage just purely comes from the reason that you just don't know yourself well enough. I think being alone and allowing yourself the space to be alone every now and then is very, very important for self-growth. And the final reason I want to talk about of why you might be self-sabotaging is that you are surrounded by the wrong people. The people that you surround yourself with make so much impact on where you go in life, what you achieve, all of that. Because if you surround yourself with very toxic people, with people that discourage you, with people that are maybe jealous of you, so they aren't kind, they're not supportive of the things that you want to do, this is going to affect you, and you don't want that. You want to be surrounded with people that encourage you, that get excited for you, that want you to grow, that want you to succeed. And I think it's also important to surround yourself with friends that are maybe doing the thing that you want to do but haven't done yet, because it motivates you, it inspires you, and you can also learn from them. And if they are a good person, if they're a good friend, then they will encourage you. You really much take on the characteristics of the people that you spend the most time with. But I hope this video maybe brought some insight. If there's something you want to reflect on or share, make sure you comment below. I would love to get a conversation going. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks again for joining me today. And yeah, if you like my content, don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I post new content every single week. I hope you guys have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye bye, guys.